the deposits, which were there from saving banks or current account or recurring deposit or FDs, senior citizen savings, monthly income scheme, Jan Dhan Yojana, all this, it can be utilized for this mineral funds for the districts to benefit, these affected people, especially for medical tests, screening, other assistance which was required. So, if we see the total impact of the scheme, I think it is amazing. And when we will listen, one state that and few districts how it worked, then I think we can strengthen this statement that more than 42 crores poor people received financial assistance of 68.82 crores, by 7th September 2020. Sir, I think many things have, for example, the Garib Kalyan Yojana, this is extended up to Diwali. And there are many other schemes which are extended further. But up to September, which is data available to us, even in that is very impressive. And 3.27 crores free Ujjwala cylinders, they already delivered. 4.43 crores member of employees provident fund beneficiary, they got about 2,476 crores by 75% advance of this EPF. PM Kisan, this I think 17,891 crores were transferred to 8.94 crores of farmers. So I think this type of data is available, which is very impressive. And in fact, in this time, it was a very difficult time for all, not only for poor people, even for rich. I think Corona was one pandemic which has not left anybody and which has not, spared anyone, I should say, rich or poor. But I think the major challenge for the government was poor people, old people, the disabled, and I think this scheme fairly, did a very good job for such people. For example, women, for example, widows, for example, disabled people, the young. I think this covered the entire range of these people. And that's why I say, for example, it is saying that 30,952 crores dispersed to 2.82 crores old people, widows, disables, and 1.82 crores building construction workers. They got 4,987 crores during this time. And now the scheme is further extended. Some of the scheme, not all, but I think this is required, and particularly food, that is very important thing. So I think this Yojana is extended up to Diwali. So I think it's a very positive step. But sir, we are talking about the overall picture and the figures which are available from the government. The important thing is that how it goes and funds flow, at the grassroots level, and how people really benefited by that. That can be analyzed, or that can be, our people who are working at district level and officers who are working or planning at state level, they are the best person, who can tell about this. And we are fortunate that we have such people today who will give the real picture that how this Yojana benefited, poor in real sense. Sir, as our Director General sir is saying that it's an academic exercise for us. We are not taking only government data. Sometimes we discuss it with the senior officials. Sometimes, and there is one faculty who is assigned, this job to collect information from different places and prepare a theme paper. But we really take it as an opportunity that see each and every flagship program analyze it. Analyze, it doesn't mean criticizing, but analysis means that we give our opinion that even in implementation, what can be added or deleted. So I think this kind of thing we are doing, and we are glad that today you have taken this initiative, and you have made it in real sense into the academic exercise, which our DZ desired. So I will stop here, sir. But certainly, because I have also collected lots of information from different places, and I will again maybe come and discuss it when discussion will be there, or question and answer will be there. So thank you very much, sir, once again. And over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Sharma Sahab, for a very, very comprehensive presentation. Your theme paper has already been circulated to all the participants, and I've already welcomed all participants, including the Director General Sahab and Professor Sharma and Amitabh. I find that some participants have joined recently, so those who have joined, again, welcome to all of them. The Secretary, Honorary Secretary of Maharashtra Regional Branch, Dr. Vijay Sadbir Singh, has also joined. So welcome, Vijay. And amongst the other senior officers from Maharashtra, I find that Mr. Anup Kumar, who's a Principal Secretary, has also joined. So we are having a battery of bureaucrats and senior officers, and they are going to tell us how this scheme is being implemented. But before that, I must, since the Maharashtra Regional Branch is a post branch today, tell some of points about the branch that some participants may not be aware of it. This Maharashtra Regional Branch of IIP is one of the oldest in the country. Director General साहब को शायद पता है, मुझे नहीं पता. Central IIPA branch का जन्म हुआ 1954 में, और 1955 में महाराष्ट्र रीजनल ब्रांच का भी जन्म हो गया. So immediately after the Central IIPA was born, the Maharashtra Regional Branch has also come into existence. It has had a long history, and it's one of the most, I would say, active, vibrant branches. And we have, our strong point is that, of course, Central IIPA library is fantastic. I mean, I'm very happy with it. But as a regional branch, we too have a collection of about 12,000 to 13,000 books on public administration. And we keep updating our collection of books in the library. So it specializes in public administration as a library. And we have some 2 or 3 important programs every year. One of them is the B.G. Deshmukh Memorial Lecture, named after our legendary Cabinet Secretary, our former Chief Secretary. And we have a Gadkari Award for Innovation in Public Administration. And I think these are examples which the Director General Saab may like to give to other states also, that one way of encouraging innovation in public administration is to reward innovations. And a lot of officers in the field are doing tremendous innovation work. And that needs to be appreciated. Even if it's a small token of appreciation, they are full of enthusiasm to go ahead with that. Then we also have the Y.B. Chavan Memorial Lecture every year. We hold essay competition. We have a lot of training programs, but because of the pandemic, at the moment, the training programs are not taking place. But the situation looks like improving, and we hope that we are able to revive. Now, with these few words about the regional branch, I would like to come back to the subject that we are discussing today. And for that, I thought the best way would be that, yes, we need input from Professor Sharma, who has studied at the national level and gathered a lot of information. But the question is that how is the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, and particularly the Garib Anna Yojana, being implemented? Now, I have one important information to share, that we had in the invitation put the name of Secretary Food and Civil Supplies, Mr. Vilas Patil. And he had agreed to come, but because of some unfortunate bereavement in his family back home, he has had to rush to his hometown. So he not able to participate today, but he has sent me information saying that the program of 5 kg wheat or rice and 1 kg of pulses to the poorer sections of the society is being implemented in Maharashtra. And I'm sure my colleague for a long time, Mr. Devashish Chakravarti, the Additional Chief Secretary Planning, is going to tell us how things are being implemented. And we followed after Devashish, I would expect and I would request Vinita Singhal, who is the Principal Secretary Labour, to tell us about some of the schemes over there. With that brief introduction, and why this subject? Somebody rightly said it is a very relevant subject because all of us know that the pandemic has affected the vulnerable sections of the society in the most hard and adverse manner. And therefore, this scheme of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was formulated by the government of India, announced, and a lot of financial support has been made available. So we are going to look at, it may not be possible within a span of 1.5 hours to look at all components in detail, but some major components we are going to take up. With this introduction and with this welcome words, I would request with the permission of the Director General IIPA that Mr. Devashish Chakravarti, because he's a very busy man, and Additional Chief Secretary. Are you there, Devashish? Can you start?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Devashish. Over to you. You may please present. Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon to sir at as DG IIPA. Good afternoon to the Honorable Chairman of the Maharashtra Regional Branch of IIPA. So very warm greetings on behalf of the team of Government of Maharashtra. Sir, we had been provided with a guidance note about the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. And if all the esteemed participants agree, and especially, sir, you and DG IIPA, would we go through one by one all the components of the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, or would you like few of the schemes within that? Because it's an umbrella scheme with a very wide span to be taken up for more detailed discussions. So if you were to go,
what I would suggest is, Devashish, that those principal secretary who are present, for example, I can see that Secretary Agriculture Eknath Davle is present. So you may briefly touch on agriculture and farmers, but let him speak on that in detail. Or Vinita is present, so on labor component, on construction workers, you may touch upon it, but Vinita will tell us in detail as to what is happening, what is being done for the welfare of construction workers during the pandemic. So these two officers I can see. So on agriculture and on labor, you may make a passing mention and go to other subjects.
sir, as you have desired, I will then begin with the Pradhan Mantri Anna Kalyan Yojana.
Yes.
So this is probably the most impactful of the schemes under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, because as we see and experience here that during the peak period of last year's pandemic, when the lockdown was very sharp, and there was a sense of insecurity amongst the people in both rural and urban areas, especially the people who depend on the National Food Security Act for provision of food grains, as to how they would actually source their food grains during this period of sharp lockdown. Fortunately, sir, while the state was also planning as to what could be done, the union government came out with this Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, and a major component of that was devoted to providing for food security. So we saw through the figures of Maharashtra. Maharashtra is a very large state, sir. We have a total of more than 7 crores beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act. And sir, when we went through the figures of the uptake that was done by the Food and Civil Supplies Department, we found that the food grain actually lifted was more than 90-95% of the allocations made by the Government of India. And out of that, more than about 90-95% has been distributed. So I think the people who depend on the public distribution system for their food security, they found a great sense of assurance. Because otherwise, because the logistic chains were highly disrupted, we were also not very sure as to how the food grains from FCI would actually reach the fair price shops. But all along during the first wave, there was a lot of detailed planning which happened in the Food and Civil Supplies Department. We were able to reach the food grains to the holders of the ration cards. Sir, I think to begin with, my appreciation of this would be that it brought in a deep sense of assurance to the people who depend largely on the public distribution system for their food security. Sir, I was also told by agencies like UNICEF, who work through a lot of network partners, that had this not happened, probably the incidence of petty crimes would have happened, though there was strict lockdown, but people would have gone to any extent to probably seek a way out of getting food grains, and there could have been petty crimes happening. There could even have been a few stray incidents of maybe food riots. So to that extent, I think, sir, this was very timely. Sir, one more aspect of this is that the migrant crisis that we saw in the midst of all this. So Maharashtra took the lead in this as well, and a lot of such camps where food grains were provided, cooked meals were provided to the migrant laborers to make their journey back to their homeland more comfortable. Sir, the One Nation, One Ration Card mandate of the union government has been fulfilled in Maharashtra, but the figures that we have show that this outreach is still to be still to reach its objectives, because the figures that I got from the Food and Civil Supplies Department, out of the 7 crore of beneficiaries that we have under the public distribution system, out of state beneficiaries who hold ration cards from other states during the period that we have introduced the One Nation, One Ration Card system in Maharashtra, only about 8,000 people did take benefit of this. These were the people who are holding ration cards from other states but had come to Maharashtra during this period, and they could get their allocations under the public distribution system. Similarly, from Maharashtra, those who went out, though Maharashtra is a state which does not really export labor, but there are people who do go out of the state in search of jobs. So there again, the figures just about 8,200. But within the state of Maharashtra, who moved from one district to another, about 7.5 lakhs people. And especially, sir, as you know, in Maharashtra, we have a category of people who migrate for wage earnings, and they are primarily from the tribal areas. They are the sugarcane laborers who migrate every year. These are annual migrations which happen. So these people really benefited, but the numbers should have probably been larger, because we find just about 7.5 lakh people who got the benefit of the One Nation, One Ration Card system in place. But hopefully, as we are able to reach out to more and more people and make them aware that such a option is now available to you, because this is done through an e-pass system with Aadhaar authentication. Now, penetration of Aadhaar can be an issue of these areas, tribal areas, also maybe with as the sugarcane Fazar, who keep migrating throughout the year in search of wage earnings. But I think, sir, this is a landmark achievement. The highlight of yesterday's or the tone and tenor of yesterday's order of the Supreme Court hints at what needs to be done under the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act of 2008. So here, I think collectively, including in Maharashtra, we've not been very successful in building up those databases of almost about 250 plus category of professions where people are mostly from the unorganized workers category. And here probably Principal Secretary Labor would be able to tell us what can be done, because this not only is linked to the Pradhan Mantri Garib Yojana, but also cuts across many other social protection schemes where we are not able to even make DBT transfers available because of the lack of data of registered beneficiaries who the law otherwise entitles them to receive such benefits, including financial benefits, health benefits, insurance benefits. I think Maharashtra has a lot of good infrastructure to provide for all these benefits to the people. Large network of fair price shops. Densities may vary from district to district, but I think we've almost reached a level of saturation where a fair price shop is at a very kind of approachable distance. There are some other issues which we can probably discuss as we go along and have the question answer session. Sir, with these few words, I think I'll request maybe the Principal Secretary Labor, Principal Secretary Animal Husbandry and other officers to talk about their schemes, and I will join in as and when others speak about them.
Thank you very much. Before I invite Principal Secretary Vinita to tell us about it, I will just read out the message that Mr. Vilas Patil has given the Secretary Food and Supplies. I had asked him a pointed question. I had asked him, in Maharashtra, are we giving 5 kg of wheat or rice and 1 kg of pulses free to the poor under the Prime Minister Garib Kalyan Yojana? His answer is yes, sir. It is 5 kg free food grain, 2 kg rice, 3 kg wheat per person for all the beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act. In Maharashtra, the number of card holders are around 1.52 lakh and number of beneficiaries are around 7 crore, as our ACS planning was telling us. But this time we are not providing pulses. Last year, 1 kg chana or chana dal was provided. Approximate quantity per month is 3.5 lakh metric tons. Besides, biometric authentication is strictly followed in Maharashtra, and more than 91% beneficiaries have been linked with Aadhaar cards to ensure transparency in distribution. So the first component that we were discussing, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Yojana, how has it been implemented in Maharashtra? This is what is the state figure. Now, when the turn comes, we are going to ask the collector of Nasik, tell us how in your district this is being implemented, but that will be at a subsequent stage. Now I request our Principal Secretary Vinita. Are you there, Vinita? I can see your name, but are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm there, sir.
Vinita, आप बताइए कि कंस्ट्रक्शन वर्कर्स के वेलफेयर के लिए पैंडेमिक के सिचुएशन में what measures are being taken? Over to you, Vinita.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone else who has joined the meeting. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be speaking on a forum like this and sharing whatever information that I have. Sir, first I would like to point out that as the Labour Department goes, it covers the entire spectrum of labourers, whether it is organized sector, unorganized sector, certain specific sectors like domestic workers, BD workers, and handloom workers or otherwise. But in regards to today's conversation, I will limit myself to the welfare of construction workers. And I will basically focus on 3 things, sir. But before I begin on these 3 issues that I wish to talk about, I would say that, sir, there are 31 various schemes which on a regular basis we implement through the board, the Construction Workers Welfare Board, and none of those schemes ever came to a stop. They can primarily be divided into the sectors of health, social welfare, education, and general awareness. And we have been continuously taking care of all those schemes. So that has been one part. But as far as exclusively the pandemic period goes, sir, the first lockdown was extremely harsh on us for the reason that all the activities, all the movement came to a standstill. And it was at that time that the board first took a decision of giving a monetary benefit of 2,000 rupees per registered worker to our construction workers. At that point of time, sir, 10 lakh, 5,000 and 31,000 workers were given the monetary benefit. And then when the lockdown got prolonged, we realized that this is not going to be a sufficient amount. Then we released the second installment of 3,000 rupees, which again went to around 10 lakh workers. And total expenditure was more than 500 crores on this amount. So this is what happened in the first lockdown, sir. And sir, now going back to the memories of the first lockdown, what really happened was that there was a lot of migration. Maharashtra is traditionally a state that receives people from outside states, particularly UP, West Bengal, Orissa, Chhattisgarh, and to a small extent from our neighboring states of MP, etc. So the major challenge that we faced at that point of time was to take care of the workers who were going out. So I would say that Maharashtra, even if there can be a difference of opinion about it, but I would say that we could fairly evenly manage the situation. We had at every district, the collectors were specifically asked, and the entire department was working for providing the relief camps where these people could have stayed if they could not travel. Travel arrangements were being made, and sir, the state spent a huge amount of money, and around 22 lakh people who wanted to go out were transported through the trains over the period of time. Special trains were arranged and paid for by the state government, and the transportation up to the last destination or the last big station, especially UP, Orissa, and Bengal, these were made, and people were given a systematic leeway whereby they could go back to their hometowns. Of course, there were situations when the people were camping in our camps, and there the food was being provided by the district collectors, by the NGOs. The department was coordinating all their activities. And at that point of time, sir, the helplines in all the districts were activated. We tried to mitigate the amount of damage the people could have, people or the families suffered, the ones who were in the construction worker thing. But at that point of time, sir, we stopped considering the issue whether they were registered workers with us or they were not registered workers with us. We took a humane approach, and all the construction workers who wanted to move out, they were all provided this kind of help at all the district headquarter places. And our teams, the labor department teams, were monitoring the movement at the railway stations also, and coordinating with the railway authorities for the transportation. At that point of time, around 22 lakh people, sir, they went out. They went to their hometowns, and it was from all over Maharashtra, particularly from Nagpur, Mumbai, Pune, Kolhapur. These were the certain areas, and also from a part of it from Nasik and from Jalgaon also. So these were the places from where the people really went out. There was no question of the in-house labor or the labor from Maharashtra from moving, but there was a very slight inter-district movement. So that was also taken care of at that point of time. Unfortunately, we had one or two very bad incidents, the one in Aurangabad, etc., etc. And those bad memories and those events still haunt us. And we are trying to ensure that nothing of that sort ever happens again. We learned our lessons, and we also learned about the aspirations of the people in the first lockdown. When the second lockdown happened, sir, there were two major changes. One major change that came in the second lockdown was that a considered policy decision was taken that the workers will be encouraged to stay at their sites of construction. The construction work will go on provided there is no movement of these labor. So that really helped us, sir. So in the second lockdown, there was practically no movement of labor because they were on their sites, they were employed, and they were doing their regular work, whatever was possible at that point of time. Even then, to mitigate their distress, amount of 1,500 rupees was sanctioned, and it was given. And at this point of time, sir, in the second lockdown, 10 lakhs of 65,538. These many people were given the beneficiary amount of 1,500. The best part during the first and the second lockdown was that even before Honorable Supreme Court gave us the guidance and asked all the states to do it, sir, we were providing cooked food at all the construction sites in Maharashtra. In the first phase, it was an ongoing scheme which was being done on the pilot basis. We were covering 6 districts which had the highest density of construction work going on, namely Mumbai, Pune, and other cities. Then we extended it to another 17 cities whereby the cooked food, the lunch and the dinner was being provided at the construction sites. So when Supreme Court actually asked us to provide the kits to the workers, at that time Maharashtra had already been doing it for more than 6 months, and the Supreme Court Honorable Court took the due cognizance of the issue and also asked the other states to follow suit if possible. So, sir, we have been providing cooked food. It was initially, when the scheme was initially conceived a year ago, it was thought, more than a year ago actually, it was thought that we will charge them 10 rupees per plate per worker. But in the COVID period, we wrote off that amount also. So it was completely free of cost and it was being delivered on the site. So the people never really had to move. There was never any violation of any COVID protocol. And people were given the smart cards, which was like at the expense of the scheme, and they were being given food. Of course, during the COVID period, sir, we even relaxed this condition of having the card. So even if there were people who were not having the cards, if they were at the site, they were all being given the food. So 2 issues, sir, we sorted out at our level. One was the mitigating the movement, providing the monetary benefits, and secondly, providing the food to all the construction workers who were working on big sites or even at smaller sites, because our vehicles were going to the site. We were going to them. They were not coming to any particular place. And third and most important thing that we did was, sir, we already had an agency in place which was taking care of the medical needs of these people. We also included the COVID protocol and COVID testing and COVID management in there. So a lot of people, a lot of construction contractors and otherwise who contacted us or who were using our helpline to give the information, we were doing the on-site testing and also taking all the people who were affected by COVID to the government facilities, because free of cost government facilities of quarantine centers, etc. was available. And since the district authorities, district collectors, they were all involved in this operation, and thanks to all of them who did a really Herculean task and helped the local people. So we never found any complaints about people not being given treatment, but they were being held in the quarantine centers. They were being given treatment in the government hospitals. And we have a track record of all those people, sir. And even today, sir, we have again initiated a drive, which is our annual experience anyway, for doing the health checkups of all our registered workers. As of now, sir, I have a total data of around 11 lakh workers, construction workers whose health, who in the camp mode, whose health data is being now recorded. So that in the future also, sir, we have the complete and the yearly health records of these people. One thing more I wish to point out here is, sir, that we gave out the money. Total, we gave 3,000 plus 2,000 plus 1,500. All this money was given in their accounts. At the time of our registration only, sir, the workers have been with us for a couple of years now. At the time of registration only, sir, we had their bank accounts, their details, their Aadhaar card, and even the place of origin from where they came from. And the money was directly sent to their accounts. And the entire operation of giving money to all the 10 lakh people at one go, or more than 10 lakh people, the whole operation took us only 8 days. And that was the time when the banks took the time to send it to the various accounts, because it was all over Maharashtra to various bank branches. But the whole operation was extremely smooth, sir, and we have not received a complaint whereby the money has not been received by our legitimate workers. We have also done the cross verification in this, sir, and there are absolutely no complaints that it has gone to wrong people or that the people have not received their money. So in this way, sir, in the second phase, we have been extremely successful. I would, even in all humility, I would say, sir, that we have been successful in mitigating the loss to the people in terms of wages. There has been no distress in terms of migration. We have been keeping track in the second lockdown also, sir. Around 5.5 lakh people have gone, but I would like to point out that all of them have gone back on reserved seats. None of them has faced any distress in traveling, and it is a voluntary travel, sir. It is not as if it is because of loss of wages or loss of work that people have gone back from the construction industry. I would not be able to make the statement in terms of the people who have been who are doing million jobs in big cities like Mumbai and Pune, like working as waiters or hawkers, etc. I wouldn't say that because they have suffered some kind of loss. But construction workers have not faced any such adverse situation in the second lockdown, sir. So the state of Maharashtra has been fairly successful in managing the controlling, mitigating the effects of all this COVID lockdown on the construction workers. I would be happy to take any questions, sir, if there are.
Thank you, thank you. No, certainly, and it's an excellent presentation.
Sir,
There would be a lot of
I have a very
presentation,
small point.
but may I request that the question answer session would be towards the end, and with,
Sure.
please allow me
Sir.
to now ask our secretary. Yes.
Sir, I have a very small point, sir, to Vinita ji. So can I?
Yeah, please.
In fact, let me compliment you for a very, very positive and a very successful handling of this COVID, especially the contract work. Ma'am, IIP is doing, I have a sir, thoda sa business interest hai. IIP is doing the impact of labor reforms in couple of selected states. And you know, Maharashtra cannot be spared because Maharashtra has half of the population of UP, but 2x is the GDP. So we have, and now Labor Secretary is also from Maharashtra. So Maharashtra is part of that study. We have already sent a questionnaire to Chief Secretary yesterday, and this study is required to be completed by 15th of July. We are doing it for PM Advisory Committee. I will be really grateful if you can send us the necessary information so that Maharashtra gets represented in our study. Thank you once again. Take note.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll take care of it, sir, and we would be happy to be a part of the study, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, sir. Chatria, sir.
Sir, I would like to add for a few more points to what Vinita just mentioned. So why we are able to do all this under the central legislation is also because we are fortunate as a state to have a very high degree of urbanization, which results in a very buoyant real estate sector, which results in the flow of money under the construction workers into the construction workers fund, which is being managed under the Labor Department. Sir, in this, though the in-migration happens from the other states, I'm quite sure that if these people had not migrated and worked as construction laborers in the state of Maharashtra, probably way back in their own states, they wouldn't have got the benefit of cash transfer at all, because they didn't probably have, there are no state budgetary resources available to fund such schemes. We've been able to implement this in both the waves because we have a very buoyant real estate. Now, the only issue that remains here is that most of the aggregated figures don't reflect as to who got it and who missed out on it, despite being a construction worker, because it is only the big metropolitan cities, the larger municipal corporations where this system is in place. Many of the other smaller municipal towns where construction work is going on, probably the process of registration needs to be looked into, and if there are gaps that needs to be filled in, because a kind of estimation would give a figure of more than 25 lakhs, which should be the figure for migrant laborers who work as construction workers. So going back for half a minute to the issue of food security, I missed out saying earlier that the state government on its own has taken two very landmark decisions. So one is before the central government came in with the second phase of the Prime Minister Garib Kalyan Yojana, which began, I think, mid of May. The state government took a very proactive decision in the very beginning of the second wave to say that we would provide at the same level additional food grains, wheat and rice and dal from resources of the state budget. So that had just begun when our burden lightened by the decision of the union government, and then we seamlessly moved into distributing the same amount of food grain under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. So one important point which we need to mention is how the state government is implementing the Shiv Bhojan Thali scheme. Now, this is actually a meal scheme. It is not actually distribution of food grain, but it is a very important component in terms of food security. So this scheme is actually and primarily targeted at the urban migrant laborer, because these are people who actually live in shanties. They don't have time to cook their meals, but they're out for work by the early hours of the morning. So this actually helps them get a square meal at least once a day. So it fills in that big vacuum in terms of food security, and I would call it more as meal security, because though food may still be available under the one nation, one ration card, etc., but this is an immediate need which is fulfilled. Sir, if you see the figures, we began last April, more than 50 lakh, more than 55 crores thalis have been distributed. Sir, when we began, it was 10 rupees a thali. Then the government brought in more subsidy into the Shiv Bhojan Thali scheme. For about a year, we ran it at rupees 5 a thali. And since the second wave, because of the larger distress perceived at the level of the state government, so today it is free. Today it is a free square meal for anybody who wants. Sir, it is for these urban laborers who, I think, at the present wage levels are much below what they were getting prior to the COVID pandemic. So since the wage levels are down, since the wage level is not the same, as well as it is not evenly available today, there is a lot of, I think, disruption in the unorganized labor sector. This comes in as a great help to all these people in distress. I would go to the extent of saying that with lower wages, this also helps in actual savings. Not only is it providing food security, it is providing a saving in the wage income, which can go back to the family of these migrant laborers. Because if he was to afford a meal from the meager wages that he got during the day, he would have been able to send less money back to his family. So it also, because there are in these large metropolitan areas, municipal corporations of Maharashtra, a large number of people who are beggars, homeless, who can even probably not be able to afford 5 rupees till somebody gives them that 5 rupee. So for them, sir, it has come as a big relief. They are, I am told, gathering around these centers in the afternoon for one meal, which they get during the day. Thank you, sir. I think we can proceed with the other topics.
Thank you very much, Ashish, for very good inputs. And I'm sure that all participants who are not aware of it, the DG Director General Saab and Professor Sharma would take a note of it, that the state government put their own resources in providing food grains to the poorer sections of the society during the pandemic. Plus, not only food grains, but we are giving prepared meals also to the poor sections free of cost. So this is an additional information which you may like to make a note of. Now I call upon Mr. Eknath Davle, the Secretary Agriculture, because he has been waiting and he's going to tell us कि किसानों के लिए क्या किया गया इस दौरान में, because one of the important components of the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana is we have to reach the farmers also. So Eknath, please tell us what is being done for helping the farmers in this situation.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for giving an opportunity to interact with all dignitaries on the issues that what the state government, particularly the Department of Agriculture, had done during the lockdown period and how it has been a performance in the implementation of the various schemes, particularly the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Sir, I will just give a small brief about that how we had come on the come across this pandemic and how the agriculture has been. So in the last week of 2000, see March.
एकनाथ, will you
Yeah.
please, आपण दिसत नाहीये आम्हाला, तर तुमचा
Sir,
व्हिडिओ.
I think there is some problem of visibility. Some
Okay,
issue is there.
no problem, but we can
I
hear you
tried.
clearly. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, there is some issue on the this thing. I tried it.
No problem, no problem. We can hear you very clearly. आवाज एकदम clear है. Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
ठीक. So when the lockdown was last 2020, when the lockdown was declared, it was basically a harvesting season, particularly Rabi harvesting was going on, and there was no one was knowing that how to react with such type of a scenario when there was absolutely panic in all over the society. But in spite of that, sir, it is said that all things stop, but no agriculture and survival can't stop. So one has to be with the this thing. So we immediately had responded to the situation. We had established our control room at the district level and the commissionerate level to respond the various issues raised by the farmers. Particularly, there was the issue of the evacuation of the food grains, particularly to market mandis and the horticulture crop. That was the big issue. And since I just told that the harvesting of the Rabi was just on the swing, so we tried to manage the machineries and these things through our control room. And fortunately, Government of India also relaxed some norms on the agriculture part. I think it was on the 27th of the March. They are relaxed that they excluded the agriculture, the various activities from the lockdown restrictions, and it was a great help. But in spite of that one, there was no market available, and then we were stuck on that how to get the ready market to the farmers. So accordingly, various farmers group had come forward, and there was one side there was a demand on the part of the society because there was no market open, and there was surplus available. So there was a very peculiar situation when there was supply was surplus, whereas at the same time demand was very high, but we couldn't bridge that one. And that our around 20,000 various farmers group actively come forward, and then with the help of the agriculture and marketing and the cooperative department, these three departments hands in hands work together, and we could basically evacuate the farmers produce towards to the consumer. And so that was a great relief. So around 9,60,000 quintals vegetable was basically delivered during this last pandemic period. That was the case one. But sir, after immediately that, then second issue with us was that Kharif was on the, it was just to start, because April and May practically are the period where we have to go for the pre-Kharif operations, particularly the placement of a seed, placement of the fertilizer, pesticide, and all where logistic was stuck down. So again, we had interacted with the various stakeholders, particularly the transport association, then with the help, all the input dealers, then all the companies of the seed, fertilizers, and we could basically mobilize the things. I think it was started from the 15th of April, then we will actually the full swing, and we're in a position to make the all stock ready available before the onset of the monsoon. So when on the 15th of March, around 11 to 17th of this week, when there was a monsoon was onset in the Maharashtra, and we started our sowing operation. So fortunately, all inputs were ready available. So there was no shortage, there was no queue, there was no this thing. At the same time, what we did, we had taken a proactive initiative, and we created a confidence among the farmers that we should not hurry about, we should not rush to the input dealer shop. There will be sufficient input will be available. So we, with the help of, again, with the help of farmers group, around, sir, we delivered around 5,40,000 metric ton of the fertilizer toward the doorstep of the farmers. Bandavar Sheikh Khat Watap. So there's on the border at the farm level, we with the help of our various group, we had given this to the farmers. So basically, the message was spread among the farmers. Yes, there is a sufficient input is available. There is no issue on that part, and then the tension is out on that. Similarly, we supplied around 23,000 quintals of the seed at the doorstep of the farmers. So this basically, though it is a small nature, but it helps a lot to create the confidence among the farmers. And sir, fortunately, the monsoon was good. We had organized the various extension program through the online extension program was the another boom in the agriculture. I mean, some the rural, the penetration of the 4G and this various social media platform was very helpful to disseminate the information. And we were very active. We had created our own YouTube channel. We had our own Facebook page, live Facebook page. So we interacted with the farmers, sir, around daily. Every district has this type of information. Around 1,000 of videos has been released so far through the YouTube channel, so that the farmers get the day-to-day information. Similarly, our farmers field school also was organized on the online. We had organized around 12,000 villages were covered under farmers field school. So the extension was not again hurdle that how to interact with the farmer. So all support system of the extension was fully fulfilled. We had taken up various drives on the like as a Krishi Sanjeevani Saptar, then the various another programs. We had our complete crop cycle system, which basically had the vigilance, continuous monitoring of the crops. So with the all efforts and the good monsoon, sir, I would like to I will be pleased to say that this year Maharashtra has produced around 2 lakh 42,000 metric ton of the food grains, which is historical high. The highest was in 2016, it was 2,22,000. So this year, around 20 lakh metric ton is the surplus additional that we can produce. So this is around 24.2 million metric ton is the highest production of the oilseed pulses and the food grain we could produce. We have achieved the best of the best productivity in the crop like as a soybean, and even in the crop of maize we could achieve the very good productivity. So this was the this thing. So the in nutshell, the growth of the agriculture on the year-on-year basis was the 11.8%, which is again highest in the last 5 years. So this had been the achievement of the farmers. As a department, yeah, we facilitated, but the role of a department was always supportive on that part. But it was a great achievement on the part of the farmers that they could do these things. So this is something again. Then when the next again lockdown unfortunately had come again in the month of the again April, and again we will stuck on the same cycle. But having the earlier experience, we are very confident how to deal with the situation. And so this also here, so around as on today, we had sown around 52 lakh hectare, around 40% of the sowing operation is completed. So there is no problem. Absolutely, we were very confident on that part. Even there is for the purpose of the evacuation of the good horticulture goods or the farmers goods, there was no problem during this lockdown period also. So the another part, sir, this was what we did in the last 1.5 years during the all this pandemic, and agriculture has shown a very good result. I mean, not on the state level, also at the national level. So always our CM says कि your रोजी रुक सकती है, रोटी नहीं. I mean, you can labor and labor, but the farming cannot stop, and that is really true, sir. Now I will just give a brief about that how this Pradhan Kisan Samman Yojana is one component of the scheme which is a package which was announced by the Honorable Prime Minister. And under this, sir, since from the April, it is in the 4th trimester has been completed. So around 8,457 crore rupees has been disbursed to the farmers through direct benefit transfer scheme. First in the month of April and July, April, July trimester, around 2,140 crores. August to November second trimester, it was around 2,259 crore. December to March, it was around 2,176 crore. In April to July, this trimester which is going on, around a 1,880. Around, so the total 8,457 crore rupees has been disbursed to the around the total farmers, around 1 crore 4 lakh farmers has been covered under the schemes till now. So the performance as per the part of this Prime Minister Kisan Samman Yojana, state has been awarded 3 awards at the national level last during the February month. So we had done good as per the government of India's norms. State performed better, sir. So this was from my point on the agriculture and then the implementation of the Honorable Prime Minister package. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eknath, for a very comprehensive presentation on what has happened on the agriculture front. And I'm very happy to note that we have had a record production in agriculture. So that seems to be the saving grace of this otherwise depressing situation. Now, before I call upon the collector, Mr. Suraj Mandre, to tell us what is happening on the field, I see that Mr. Anup Kumar, the Principal Secretary for Animal Husbandry, is there. Would you like to say something about, contribute something for the discussion? What is being done for the farmers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving the opportunity. I would just like to add and supplement what my colleague Eknath Davle has just presented. This agriculture growth rate, which was observed, is not only because production and productivity were very good, but also farmers kind of used this adversity as an opportunity to transform the way they were marketing their produce. And this was facilitated by Government of Maharashtra's decisions. For example, in 2016, vegetable and fruits were deregulated and the compulsion to bring them to APMC was removed. So that gave a good, in fact, that was a response to the emergence of farmer producer companies emerging in different parts of Maharashtra and also involving in direct to consumer marketing. Now, once this pandemic came, there were a lot of perception that we should not be, first thing that lockdown was there. So even if vegetable markets were open, the social distancing related fears were there. So a lot of people preferred to give order online. And plethora of such e-platforms got developed in that period. Marketing department, agriculture marketing and agriculture department came together. So under Atma, a lot of FPOs were created over the years by agriculture department. They all were used, sir, to market their produce directly to the consumer. And then many of the large FPOs, they developed their electronic platforms and took orders directly, customized orders, and then supply fresh vegetable, which was more affordable. The price was good. So good money got passed on to farmers because the elimination of intermediaries. So this was a landmark year in changing the marketing methodologies of farmers. And farmers, especially the younger groups, who were tech savvy and who knew, who imbibed the precautions of pandemic, and they did means absolute care was taken of sanitary and hygiene related protocols, and 100% assured healthy vegetable where there was no touch. I visited pack houses also, many of the pack houses of these FPOs, and I found most of them are not only trained, the women workers, they are use gloves and all. So this kind of vegetable started making way to even lower middle classes, and a lot of people changed the, so not only just large retailers, but small operators, startups, SHGs, organic vegetable producers, they all got organized and started their pound of flesh. Another very good development was, as Eknath was mentioning, not only it was more than normal year, it was a better year for exports. So lot of exports got a demand. Philip was received, and because the marketing department officers kept in touch. I give one example. Air India CMD called up and say a lot of our planes are going to European countries to fetch the medical supplies. So we have to go empty thing. So could you send your Alfonso mango for European Union markets? And so this worked out. I thank CMD Air India for this offer. So a lot of our Alfonso mangoes demands, which was there in European Union countries, could go using this cargo, which was given in a special rate. So total export of vegetable and fruit was only less by 40,000 quintals. Otherwise, it was a kind of normal thing, and in certain fruits like in pomegranate, in grapes, this was more than a normal year. So farmers not only use this pandemic as a opportunity to change the way, they also gain confidence because of their interface with the digital space, how to comply to the international standards on export. So new entrants entered in export market. So this has given us a big fillip in organizing the new ADB supported program Magnet, which is basically creating export-centric produce which are export-ready, and infrastructure can be created. So this is one thing, sir. And similarly, allied produce like milk, chicken, eggs, mutton, all of these received a demand boost. And milk was suffering because of closure of large establishment. So state government initiated its own scheme of procuring the excess milk up to the extent of 10 lakh liters and then convert into SMP. And this skim milk powder was not only sold in open market, and whatever Department of Finance gave us, 50% has been returned as the revenue received, and 1,500 metric ton has been diverted for consumption under APJ Abdul Kalam Poshan Yojana in tribal areas to malnourished children as well as lactating mothers. This SMP is being distributed. So I think this approach of looking at big calamity like a pandemic of this kind, it was used as an opportunity by many segments. So that is why when we look at all other sectors of economy, they all shrunk except agriculture, which got a positive growth of rate. So this is the real story which I wanted to share today. Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity.
Thank you so much for your inputs, Anup. And now I call upon the last speaker today. Let's hear from the collector of Nasik as to how these schemes are being implemented on the field. So are you there, Suraj? Can you hear us? Because collector has to run for so many things. Yeah, so you are there. So Suraj, tell us, you have heard your secretaries and also the Professor Sharma and DG Saab telling us कि प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण योजना क्या है, जमीन पे इसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कैसा हो रहा है, ये आप बताइए. Come on, Suraj.
Sir, first of all, I thank you all for including us in this very, very insightful webinar. Actually, since last 1 year, we have been fighting against this invisible enemy. And earlier, we all know that the word DM stands for district magistrate, but now we are no more than disaster managers for the last entire year. So we have been managing this disaster, and this scheme has come as a breeze of fresh air in the desert of all this calamity. I must say that, because it has helped us in six segments, sir. Basically, I would draw it in a way of 6 verticals where this intervention has helped us a lot. First is about civil supply. The other one is about agriculture credit. The third one is about social assistance. Fourth is about employment. Fifth is about self-help group support. And sixth is about mineral fund management. Because, sir, if I would give you a small detail about the statistics, the effect can be definitely made out. About civil supply, in the first phase, we could supply 52,000 metric ton rice to the card holders. Then in second phase, it was 47,000 metric ton wheat and 3,100 metric ton rice. And in the third phase, again, it was 19,000 metric ton wheat and 12,000 metric ton of rice. And tur dal, we supplied 2,900 metric ton. And as Devashish sir rightly pointed out, our Shiv Bhojan Thali was a very, very big relief to the poor farmers and all the workers and whosoever migrated into the cities. We have supplied in Nashik 5,33,000 thalis free of charge during the span of just 2 months. Sir, if we take away all these things from the scenario, we will get a tremendous show of hunger. Many people might have died not because of COVID-19, but purely because of hunger. Petty crimes might have gone up. So this intervention has helped us that we were having something in our hand to offer, and we could definitely engage people that at least your stomach will not be empty and you will not die of hunger. That much assurance we could give, and because of that we could enforce our lockdown measures quite effectively. Otherwise, people would have come on road. People would have asked us a question that you are keeping us keeping all the shops shut, all our employment has gone, then how will we survive? So this has helped us in bargaining with them that you observe you help us in the enforcement, and soon lockdown will be lifted, and by that time we will take care of your food requirements. So this has helped us immensely in that. About agriculture credits, around 5 lakh farmers are beneficiary of PM Kisan in Nashik. They got the additional cash dole, whatever released by the government. And simultaneously, we also supported this with the tie-up with the nationalized bank. 2 years ago, our credit release was less than 1,000 crores. But this time, even during the pandemic time, we escalated it to 3,000 crores. So we have pushed 2,000 crores more into our agriculture system this year. And this is one of the highest release in the history of Nashik district, sir. The third point was about there is assistance to low wage earners. So here also the scheme has helped us a lot. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana scheme under benefits total institute 3,468 and fund members are 42,000. So total amount of around 7 crore was released to low wage earners. Then about Manarega also, sir, the government kept aside 2,000 rupees per family in their annual budget. So the rate structure has gone up. It was revised and 20 rupees per day wage rate was increased. So around 78,000 families have got benefit out of it, and 4 crore 83,000 is the release. So it has resulted into the rise in the wage per family to the tune of 613 rupees. About self-help group also, sir, the government increased the credit limit from 10 lakh to 20 lakh. Around 1,806 self-help groups have received benefit out of that. The issue of migratory labor and construction labor was discussed at length. Single ma'am has given very good narration about that, sir. And I am very happy to say that Nashik was the first district where from first train was taken to North India carrying all the laborers, and we took so much of care that while boarding on the train, many people shouted Jai Maharashtra. So we took it as a compliment that someone coming from the out of the state, while departing the state, he is praising the administration by saying Jai Maharashtra and Maharashtra Sarkar Jindabad. So this was the biggest compliment. We took good care of them. We celebrated their birthdays. We kept them in a very, very good environment. And even this 5,000 rupees each, the benefits was transferred to 7,812 beneficiaries, and in the second phase to 16,000 beneficiaries. Around cash assistance of 5 crore 18,000 was extended to them. About mineral fund, sir, this mineral fund came as a very big relief for us because sometimes we used to get SDRF grants, but those were not sufficient to handle the magnitude of calamity. So many a time we could withdraw from the mineral fund also, and especially for carrying out our tests, RT-PCR and RAT test, we use that mineral fund entitlement, and we could also get a very good support from that fund. And lastly, sir, when the field workers were working very hard on the field, risking their own lives, this scheme also gave them assurance that if anything goes wrong, if any mishap happens, the government is very well with the frontline workers. And out of 5 persons who died because of COVID, they were on the COVID-related duties. We could give 50 lakh rupees assistance to 3 of the members of our administration. So this is also a very big relief. So I think in all the 6 verticals, we got immense benefit of these schemes, sir. And at field level, it was implemented to the best possible way. And I must say that I must thank also the central government and the state government for giving this very, very supportive scheme at a very right time. And this has helped immensely, sir.
Very good. I think that was an excellent summation of how all these schemes, which everyone wanted to know, actually are being implemented on the ground level. And I think we have got a fairly good overview from the state national level as well as feedback from the district level. Now, I can allow a few questions and suggestions for some time before I call upon the my secretary, Dr. Vijay Sadbir Singh, and then Mr. Amitabh to propose a vote of thanks. So if anyone has any question, any suggestion, any observation, any comment, yes, anyone can.
Sir, Dr. Padma Iyer, sir, Dr. Padma Iyer of UP branch is there. She is a very respected member of our UP branch. I will request her to meet.
I welcome ma'am right in the beginning, and I'll be happy if you have any suggestion or a comment to make.
Madam, kindly unmute, then speak. Dr. Iyer, kindly unmute, then speak. You are not audible, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are not audible. You are not audible.
Hello.
Now we can hear you, ma'am. We can hear you. Please go ahead now.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Actually, what I wanted to say that Maharashtra has done an excellent job, and I really enjoyed the lecture, all the lectures. One of my choicest subjects, of course, is alleviation of poverty. One thing I would like to ask is that, I mean, with all the population, I think people, not only the state, I think even the common people would have joined in. I mean, the people's participation is good in Maharashtra, and many people might have also contributed to it. Is it only the state government, or the common people also supported them?
Lot of citizens organization, NGOs and all. Would you like to comment, Debashish? She is asking for people's participation in trying to help the poor during the pandemic. I think there are any number of instances. Debashish, would you like to say?
Hello.
Sir, can I take
So
a
I
comment,
would
sir?
begin by
Sir.
Yeah. Just a minute. Let Debashish, please.
So we were overwhelmed by the response that we got from non-governmental organizations, voluntary groups, because in every city, Maharashtra has had a rich tradition of people who come forward to help people in need, whether it is during natural calamities or health crisis like the pandemic was or is. So we got overwhelming response. If you see the Niti Aayog NGO portal Darshan, you get a fair sense of ideas as to how many active NGOs are there in Maharashtra and who specifically work in the space of social protection, health schemes, and other food security related welfare sectors. So it's a huge response that we got during both waves of the pandemic. Sir, I would also like to add one or two observations relating to the PM Kisan scheme and the district management my mineral fund, which was spoken about. So one small observation about the PM Kisan scheme is that it predates the announcement of the Prime Minister Garib Kalyan Yojana. And the 2000 that was provided was front-loaded actually, and it was not given as a kind of gratuitous relief. But I guess the course correction has happened because the recent financial package, which was announced by the Honorable Finance Minister of India, has mentioned about subsidies for fertilizers. So in fact, this could have been given as more as gratuitous relief in way of maybe a subsidy to fertilizer or other agricultural inputs rather than being front loaded, because in any case this PM Kisan predates the PM Garib Kalyan Yojana. So the other point about the district mineral fund, these are earmarked funds which are available with the collector to be used, and it's a good resource to be used in such times as Collector Nasir mentioned. But the only limitation is since it accrues from the intensity of mineral excavation activities happening in the district, there are discrepancies in terms of the geographies. It is only the districts which are mineral rich get a larger share of the resources into the district mineral fund. But we took a conscious decision to map all these inadequacies in terms of the resource envelope available to the district collector, and we empowered them. By sir, in your time when you were chief secretary, you would remember that we had a district plan scheme, the annual district plan scheme managed through the district planning committee. So we diverted 25% of the total district annual plan last year, amounting to 2,500 crores for the COVID pandemic. And this year, sir, it is 30%. So all collectors have a good amount of resources with them, which they can immediately bring it to use to fight the COVID pandemic. So these were two additional observations to make.
Thank you. Suraj, you wanted to say something to the point made by Dr. Padma Iyer?
Sir, ma'am was asking about how the civil society responded towards the welfare of these laborers and everyone. Ma'am, I would be very happy to inform you that the response was so overwhelming that in Nashik we received thalis to the tune of 10.5 lakh. So many people were so much eager to help the people that I had to appoint one deputy collector just to ensure that the help goes into the right hands. But there was an overwhelming response, and I had to hire one go down just to keep the things there and guard those things. And that suffices to a very, very long span of time. So I think that this pandemic, the brighter side of the pandemic, is that it put society together and everybody tried to do best.
So to sum up, what I would like to say, Dr. Padma Iyer, is there was a huge response from the citizens, and it's not only government. The citizens and their organization were equal partners in trying to help those adversely affected during the pandemic. Okay. Thanks for bringing to our notice a very important point and a very important aspect. Yes. Now, if there are no further questions, then can I ask anyone wants to say something?
Hello. Hello.
Or I will ask our Dr. Vijay Sambir Singh, who's the secretary of the Maharashtra Regional Branch, to propose a vote of thanks.
Sir, I have a small point to make, sir.
Hello.
I thought before we take it to the closure, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, with your permission, sir.
Please.
Sir, I would like to, we were overwhelmed that all the 10 or 12 schemes that are part of overall Garib Kalyan Yojana all seem to be not only functional but deliver on the ground. In fact, the statement of Collector, respected Mr. Suraj, was icing on the cake that unnice scheme working, agriculture laborers getting wages, and 2,000 crore additional agriculture credit during pandemic. I think is a huge achievement, and I must compliment the district administration. Low wages, you have revised the low wages, 20 rupees additional is a huge money for a Garib. And everybody got 638 additional. Even SSG loan, which is 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs, 1,800 SSGs got additional loan. So I think, and then obviously, if everything works, people will certainly say Jai Maharashtra. So that was really the icing on the cake as part of celebration. But yes, sir, I would like to know one thing, that what is the progress of one nation, one card, in case somebody can highlight, or how you are deduplicating PM Kisan Yojana beneficiary, because then that's how we can take more people in that area. And third and final query would be, this Bhojan Thali, which was a top of, I think, the free food. I think an excellent initiative, both urban and rural area. The scheme was funded by the state, or it was funded by some, you know what I mean.
It is one of the most popular schemes of the state government, and to my understanding, it's 100% funded by the state government. Am I right, Suraj Mande?
Yes, sir.
It is funded by the state government, sir.
Yeah. So Debashish, ACS planning is there. It is 100% funded by the state government.
It's 100% funded by the state government.
Very good. So all the positive points which have been presented today, I'm sure the IIPA would compile and convey it to the government of India in an appropriate manner. With that, any other point? One ration, one card. What is that point? Somebody would like to comment? Debashish, will you be able to comment on that?
I mentioned it again. I mentioned it in the passing. So Maharashtra has already implemented the one nation, one ration card system. This has also been mentioned in the Supreme Court the day before. I think, or yesterday when the matter came up, the government of India said that 32 states have implemented, with the exception of 4 states and union territories. So Maharashtra has definitely implemented this. So we do it through a e-pass system, which is Aadhaar authenticated. But as I mentioned, not the extent to which it has been used as of now is comparatively less, especially in respect of the people who come into work and stay in Maharashtra. So the numbers should be much larger. It should be somewhat closer to the number of in-migrants that we have. But the data shows that it's only in a few thousands that people with ration cards in other states have come and linked into the PDS system in Maharashtra at the moment. It's only in a few thousand, but probably with time, this will benefit a large number of people who are coming from the other states into Maharashtra, and therefore can plug and play into the public distribution system, which is already working well in Maharashtra. So within Maharashtra, again, there is a lot of migration from state to state. As I mentioned earlier, there are those sugarcane workers, then there are these tribal laborers who move about from one district to district. For them, the figure around is 7.5 lakhs, which again should be a larger number probably, but with time, I think the one nation, one ration card would be a landmark kind of improvement in the existing areas.
Thank you very much. Now, Dr. Vijay Sadbir Singh, would you propose a vote of thanks request?
Migrant labor.
You're not audible, Vijay. Suraini there.
So now I'm audible.
Yeah, now you're audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the IAPA Maharashtra Regional Branch, I am very happy to propose the vote of thanks for today's webinar. I thank our guest speakers. I thank Shri Surendranath Tripathi, the Director of IAPA New Delhi, and Shri Vinod Kumar Sharma, Professor of IAPA, for giving us a good overview of the scheme. The Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana is a scheme that's a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat to provide free food grains to the migrant and the poor. The scheme has become very important at this time to provide much needed relief to the people during the pandemic crisis. Under the scheme, the center is providing 5 kilograms of food grains per month per person free of cost to over 80 crore beneficiaries covered under the National Food Security Act. The center has allocated 199 lakh tons of food grains for free distribution during July to November period of this year to provide relief to the poor during the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. The central government has also announced the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, which was announced last year, to ameliorate the hardships being faced by the poor due to economic disruptions caused by the pandemic. After the outbreak of the second wave, the scheme was reintroduced and extended till the month of November this year. So the scheme is helping the poor and disadvantaged sections of the society of our country in a big way. I also thank Shri Debashish Chakravarti, Additional Chief Secretary, Planning, Government of Maharashtra, for giving us the facts and figures of the scheme relating to Maharashtra and the way it's being implemented in the scheme. He gave a very good overview of the way the appropriate schemes are being formulated at the state level and implemented in the states. I also thank Shrimati Vanita Singhal, Principal Secretary Labour, for her excellent presentation. She very nicely narrated the action being taken by the administration to mitigate the pain and suffering of the migrant workers, especially when they were moving during the period of pandemic and lockdown declared by the government. I also thank Shri Eknath Thawde, Secretary Agriculture, the way the farmers were helped to sell the agriculture produce. He explained so well. In fact, if we see the figures of our economy in first quarter of last financial year, when the economy had contracted, agriculture sector was the only sector which registered a positive growth. I also thank Mr. Anup Kumar, Principal Secretary of Animal Husbandry, for his valuable inputs. And I also thank Shri Suraj Mandre, Collector of Nashik, for explaining very nicely the way schemes were implemented in his district, and especially the schemes which were either prepared by the district planning committee or at the state level by the ACS, by the team headed by Additional Chief Secretary Mr. Debashish Chakravarti. How the plans were put into practice in a district were very well explained by Mr. Mandre. So I thank all the speakers for their highly informative and enlightening talks, and we offer our gratitude for your valuable presence in this webinar and giving us deep insights into the topics and revealing some very interesting facts. I also express our sincere gratitude to the Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi, especially Shri Surendranath Tripathi, the Director General of IAPA, and the Registrar, Mr. Amitabh Rajan, and other officials for giving us an opportunity to organize this event and participate in it. I also take this opportunity to express our thanks to the chairperson of IAPA Maharashtra Regional Branch, Shri Swadhin Kshatriya ji, for his excellent leadership and guidance for this webinar and for moderating this session. I also thank all the participants, including the members of IAPA regional branches and the government officers who attended this event in spite of their busy schedule. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Amitabh, would you like to propose a vote of thanks from the IAPA?
A very good afternoon to everybody. We have witnessed a very, very meaningful and fruitful discussion on a very important flagship government scheme, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana today. First of all, I want to thank the Maharashtra Regional Branch for taking the lead, taking the initiative in organizing this very, very highly relevant webinar on such an important topic of Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Sri Swadhin Kshatriya ji has been leading from the front He has been the chairman of Maharashtra Regional Branch, the EC member of IIP Executive Council also, as well as he has been a participant of our advanced professional program in public administration APPA course also, way back, I think 20 years back. So it is a very nostalgic feeling, and sir has moderated this session form and given his valuable inputs. His Kalyan Yojana scheme. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for this nice initiative. My sincere thanks to Dr. Vijay Satbir Singh ji, the Secretary of Maharashtra Regional Branch, for taking this initiative further and giving his valuable comments today. Thank you very much, sir. I thank all the participants today, all the eminent speakers, especially Sri Devashish Chakrabarti ji, the ACS Planning and the Development Commissioner Planning, and he has made valuable comments. He has presented valuable inputs, and one very important input he has given, that this Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, has prevented petty crimes. It has been successful in preventing petty crimes, as the primary want of hunger has been satisfied by this scheme. Thank you very much, sir. My heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Vinita Singhal, the Principal Secretary Labour, who has very highly articulated how Maharashtra has wonderfully prevented the incidents. In the second lockdown period, Maharashtra has learned the lesson well from the first lockdown and wonderfully and evenly managed the second lockdown, primarily about the construction workers. So thank you very much, ma'am, for this. My heartfelt thanks to Principal Secretary Agriculture, Sri Eknath Dawale, who has made valuable remarks, and one that how Maharashtra Agricultural Department has been using social media tools like Facebook, etc., for helping and assisting the farmers. Thank you very much, sir, for this. My sincere gratitude and thanks to Sri Anup Kumar ji, Principal Secretary Animal Husbandry, who has given his valuable inputs. And one of this, that lesser known fact, that how the Air India CMD called upon him, and how the Air India has managed to export Alfonso mangoes also in empty cargo vessels during this lockdown to European Union. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing this great news with us. Collector Nashik, Sri Suraj Mandre, has been there, and he has very well articulated how this flagship scheme has been implemented at grassroots levels, and how this has helped the workers, laborers, migrant laborers also at the grassroots level. Thank you very much, sir. My sincere thanks and gratitude all our esteemed participants, all our government officers, our life members, chairmen and secretaries of regional and local branches of IAPA. Especially, we are seeing Mrs. Padma Iyer also here. Thank you very much, ma'am, for participating in this very important webinar. I must thank all our faculty colleagues who have been participating in this webinar today. My sincere thanks to Professor V.K. Sharma, who has made the theme paper, as well as who has been working very hard to make this webinar a great success. Thank you very much, sir. Last but not the least, this webinar series has been the brainchild of our mentor and guide, our Director General IAPA, Sri Surendra Tripathi ji, has been marshalling IAPA in this critical times also, challenging times also. And during this all lockdown, first lockdown, second lockdown, IAPA has been doing all these webinars, training programs, online training programs. In fact, we have been doing our research projects also during this lockdown, working from home also, like minimum attendance but maximum productivity. All this credit must go to Sri Surendra Tripathi ji, our Director General. So, thank you very much, sir, for this. My sincere thanks to our membership section, training section, and computer section. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. With this, I think we can call this session to an end. and I wish you all the best. Take care and stay safe, all of you. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.